Hey everyone, this is Ashley with CT Marina Digitals. I'm going to do a tutorial on how to use the Pampas grass digital backdrops in Photoshop. I already have my images open that I want to use. I go ahead and go to my quick selection tool and select subject on my client's photo. And this is a pretty bright image, so sometimes it doesn't select the best with select subject. I'm just going to go in and grab areas that it didn't. It's better to over select than under select. Can always take away more if we need to. Okay, go to edit, copy, edit and paste into my digital backdrop. I'm going to click this right up here to keep my proportions. And right away, I need to add contrast to her. Go up to my adjustments and my brightness and contrast. Click right here to create a clipping mask so it's only on her and not the backdrop. And I'm going to add some contrast. I'm going to bring down the brightness on her just a little bit. I'm going to click on her. I'm going to go up to filter and camera raw. And I'm going to make her a little bit warmer. I'm going to bring down the blacks just a little bit. I'm add a little bit of clarity. Okay. And now I'm going to create a layer mask on her. I'm going to go in and touch up the edges. 100% opacity, soft black brush. I'm going to add blur to the edge of her body, so I'm not too worried about if there's small areas like this. That'll pretty much go away when I add blur. I like to get rid of all the shadow from the other picture because I'm no longer doing shadows based on my photo I took. I'm doing shadows based on the digital backdrop that I want to use. Shadows aren't going to matter too much on this image because I am going to use the flood plugin. If you just go to Google and type in Flaming Pear flood plugin, it will take you to the website. I have the original flood, which you can try for free on their website, and then they also have Flood 2 for sale on there, but the one I use is free. It has in there, when you download it, it shows you, it has like a tutorial to show you how to import plugins into Photoshop. Because that can be a little tricky. I'm still going to add some shadow to her though. Okay, so I'm going to go to my background layer and I'm going to create a new layer. And I'm going to select the shadows on the backdrop. So I'm going to select this right here, hold down Alt, my eyedropper, and click that shadow right there. And I'm going to do a thin, 100% opacity. I'm going to do a thin line around the bottom of her dress. I'm going to create a layer mask. I'm going to black brush it right off there because that wouldn't be shadowed because the light is coming from that direction. Click back on there. And you want to try to make it as even as possible. And now this part right here would be, a little bit more shadowed, which we can add in another shadow layer for that. See this in all my tutorials, but I like to do my shadows on multiple layers. That way I can work with them individually. I'm going to create another one. Multiply blending mode. I didn't even put that on multiply, the first one. Put that on multiply blending mode for both of them. Okay, I'm going to zoom out real quick. I'm going to have to darken her dress too in some areas. I'm going to create another one. Multiply, and so I can do her hand. Create a layer mask. Lower the opacity. I don't want that to be, I want that to be subtle, so I'm going to brush it off a little bit. Create another layer. It's good to do numerous layers because you want to be able to lower the opacity on multiple layers to help it look realistic. I'm going to come back. It's easy to find it. So I'm going to come back to this one and I'm going to lower my opacity and I'm going to brush some of that off. Zoom out and see how we're looking. Okay. Okay, see the backdrop over here is much brighter than her dress. So I'm going to go ahead and click on her. I'm going to add a curves layer under adjustments, and I'm just going to slide it up until I kind of see it start to match the tone of the backdrop over here. And then I'm going to invert the layer by pressing Control or Command I on my keyboard. And then I'm going to come over with a white brush at 100% opacity, and I'm just going to brush it on to where I need to brighten this up a little bit. I don't want this part of her to be any brighter. And you can play around with the... Okay, and now her dress is a little, it's sheer, so I'm going to actually come over to her mask, the black brush at about 20% opacity, and I'm going to brush off some of the dress here, even down here a little bit, and that's going to help it blend. I want to get rid of some of this shadow right over here, so go onto there. Actually, don't want that much there at all. It's a very bright backdrop, so you want to be minimal with the shadows. I'm going to highlight her, and I'm going to go over to my dodge tool, shadows, and I'm going to get rid of some of the shadows here. I'm gonna go up to my color balance, and I'm gonna slide my slider over to yellow just a little bit and over to red just a little bit. I want to make her even cooler. Her dress is a little bit on the dull side. Okay, and I'm gonna invert that by pressing, actually no, I'm not gonna invert it. I'm just gonna brush it off of her face and her body, because her face and her body are already pretty warm. I'm gonna go over to my black brush at 100% opacity, and I'm just gonna brush that off of her. Just wanted to warm up the dress a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna create another. This takes a while sometimes. Shadow layer. I'm gonna do like 20% opacity, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of shadow right here. Create a layer mask 100% and brush it off. Lower the opacity just a little bit. Just going back and forth, adding very subtle shadows till I get it exactly how I want it. I'm gonna do 20% opacity again, and I'm gonna add a little bit more in here. Just feather the shadow. And that's starting to look a lot better. Okay. I would probably only tweak that maybe a little bit more to add another layer of shadow. There we go, a little bit more shadow there. And then I would merge her and all of her layers that I had clipped to her and go to my blur tool and just add blur to the very edge of her. I don't touch her hair very much. Okay, and then I'm going to add some blur to the background because she's further out, so I want that background to be, I want her to be sharper than the background. So I'm going to duplicate the background layer, go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I'm going to add probably, like, no, not 63. 3, let me see, play around with it a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to do about 3. And then I'm going to create a layer mask. And I'm going to brush 100% opacity, black brush it off of the field where she's laying. I have some shadow over here that I don't want there. It was that one, so I'm going to create a layer mask. I don't want that shadow there. Okay, now I would leave this as is if I was just leaving her on the backdrop itself, but it's plain, and for my taste, in my opinion. So I'm gonna use the flood plugin, and I love that it's with the grass and kind of the beachy vibe. I think the water would be really pretty. So I am going to go ahead and flatten my image. And I'm going to go up to Filter and Flaming Pear, my flood plugin. Again, if you Google Flaming Pear flood plugin and download it, it has directions on how to install it in Photoshop. Okay, I'm going to cancel real quick, and I'm going to undo flatten image. I am going to turn her slightly so it seems like her hand and her feet are on the same plane. Okay, I'm going to flatten again, Filter, Flaming Pear, Flood. I have a tutorial on my YouTube channel that shows how to use this plugin. Different ways to use it. Let's see. I want, and it's a learning curve. I mean, you can change a bunch of different settings here. Let's see how this looks. It's pretty. Kind of don't want. See, I'm going to go back and forth. You have to play with it. I don't want it to be so wavy. I'm going to take down the waviness even more. Altitude. Perspective. That's better. Still not exactly how I want it. And when you go back in, it's just going to give you, oops. It's just going to give you what you had previously. I like that. I like the wave and the calm, still water. Bring down the waviness all the way, it'll give you pretty much just like a very still water reflection. Or a lot of waviness. Show you the difference. Bring the waviness all the way down. And you can fast forward through this part if you want. This is literally me just getting it exactly how I want it. Okay, add a little bit of waviness. 50. Okay, I'm happy with that. And then if you wanted, I'm going to do undo. If you want, create a new layer and run flood on that. You could brush it off a little bit so it seems like the water isn't in a straight line and it's kind of coming up in waves a little bit. So you can brush it off certain areas a little bit. Before, after. If you have any questions, I'm probably still going to continue to mess with the flood plugin before I finish it. If you have any questions, you can message me on Etsy if you're a studio maternity photographer. I would love for you to join my group on Facebook. It is linked in the listing description.